Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. I am dying from the treatment of too many physicians. Alexander the Great. Our guest today, a great friend of the Culture Matters podcast. If you haven't listened to the Culture Matters podcast diligently, then you don't know this person. Maybe I should have said that backwards. If you barely listen to the show, you would know this person because they've been on the show with such consistency and strength of spirit, an early supporter of me, swaddling me in the culture. They've been on the show, episode 173, 197, 127, 380, 456, 508, 530, 498, 480, 430, 346, 340, 481, episode 55, season 5. The Connector is the title of that episode. Episode 55. I challenge you to go back there. It was recorded on March 30th, 2020, amid the beginning of the pandemic. We talked about how important relationship stories, being connected, telling the truth, and owning who you are, among many other topics. Wow. Andrew Berman is back on the Culture Matters podcast. This is so exciting. I didn't
It's
recall it. Episode 55.
I remember that just because it's my numbers, and it was a weird coincidence to happen to do episode 5, season 5, episode 55. It just, the number 5 has always appeared in weird places in my life. I don't know what it is about it, but so it's not like, I don't look at it like a lucky number or anything like that. It just seems to be that it's a significant number. It's generally speaking, like my best years of the decades are, years where there's a 5 in there. So look out, world. 2025 coming up.
What 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 is it? Are we special for recording a podcast at 6 a.m. or am I just a loser nerd for asking that question? Be honest.
I mean, yeah, listen, there's no question. People who are up at 6 o'clock in the morning, or basically, you're not up at 6 o'clock. You have to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning so you can be here and be on a podcast at 6 in the morning. And yeah, there's definitely, we get more out of life than most people. We pull more out of life. There's more enjoyment. There's more produced out of our lives, than the average pedestrian out there.
You've been waking up at 4 a.m. for like over 2 years, I think, consistently building your business and building your book and building that relationships. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's about like my alarm clock is set for 4:20. It used to have a different significance in my life, but now 4:20, I've turned it to be that my time to wake up. And on weekends, I'll sometimes allow myself to sleep later if my sleep debt is pretty high and I need to catch up on sleep. But Monday through, actually, Monday it's 3:30. But you know Tuesday through Friday, it's 4:20, just because you can get so much done in the morning before anyone is there interrupting your day, and you can attend to all the things you need to do to make sure that you're going to have the day with the most intention, the way you want to live the day.
How do you actually do that though? And not quit and give up and then come on a podcast and tell people that you wake up at 20 when you don't really. And I'm only going in that
Yeah.
elaboration because I know that you do get up.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
truly believe that, but I also believe that there are people that say that that's their ritual, and then it probably isn't.
Yeah.
So how do you actually do it? Do you go to
So,
bed like super? What are your hacks?
definitely not going to bed, on super early, which is probably something I'd say is something I should be addressing and going to sleep earlier. But I think my body will only allow me to sleep for, the most 5 hours. And there are times actually like on the weekends where I can force myself to go back to sleep, but generally speaking, if I'm awake, because right now what'll happen if my alarm doesn't wake me up, by 4:40 or so, my body wakes me up and I just sit there restless. And why would I just sit there in bed if I can be out there, and starting my meditation, doing a quick workout, just reading my goals for the year, reading my goals for 5 years, um, you know, trying to get in a little bit of reading, listen to a little bit of audiobook, watching a motivational YouTube video, and doing my journal. And the one of the things that kind of keeps me going at it is making sure that I'm accountable to myself. And so there are a couple of the apps that I use to kind of help me with my morning routine. Let me know my streak. And like, so I had for meditating every morning, I had something like 120 days consistently. So that means for 120 days, I did not break it. I think when I went on a cruise, I like one of the days I just I didn't meditate, and or actually I didn't log the meditation. And I felt it would be disingenuous to go back actually and change it because, so I let it go. But basically, it's using apps to kind of keep myself accountable for myself, because I think also, and as I've done that, as I've become more accountable to myself, I've become more accountable, to my colleagues, to my clients, to my family. If I know if I say something, um, it's gotta get done. And if I know I'm keeping my commitments to myself, and which is, I mean, it's great. Like looking at the goals and seeing, that I'm actually reaching the goals that I said I was going to start at the beginning of this year. Now I've had to make some micro adjustments, in some of these goals. Um, I was planning on physically reading more books, but that's shifted to more audio books. But it's at least being conscious and aware of those goals.
I want to just read this passage to you real quick. Um, when we perceive our only true death as the lack of execution upon a thought, our paradigm will never be the same. The understanding of our power and the essence of life itself may be realized in the distinction between thinking and getting started. As the adage goes, procrastination is the art of living in our yesterday, avoiding today, and destroying tomorrow. Ben Franklin. This
Mm,
was from 30 Days of Thought. Like procrastination is the only true death.
yeah. And I think, for me, one of my biggest kind of roadblocks to my ultimate success, for me not living the full life, is procrastination and not executing on a lot of things. And it's interesting. So here I
But me too, and that's why I wrote that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Just so
probably everyone, and some people are just better at executing and taking action on stuff. Um, so I happen to
like
uncover,
AA meeting, hey, I'm here. I am a procrastinator.
yes,
Like that's
Uh,
what this is right now.
PA, yeah,
If people are
Procrastinators
listening to this, I
Anonymous.
mean, chances are you're listening to this, you're a procrastinator too.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny.
Like they might be listening to this because they're procrastinating.
I've watched videos about procrastination to procrastinate doing stuff. I can't can't get more meta than that. But it's an interesting thing that I look at. So we sold our business in 2020, and I'm so grateful that event happened. I think actually we've been able to execute on a lot of things, but I look back and do an autopsy of what went wrong. Because if I was in a better position, I might have not sold. Might not have sold at that time, at that moment. Um, I do feel actually that we found a great partner and someone who had a vision who I aligned with. Um, but I also look actually at I did an autopsy of some of the notes and things and ideas that I did not execute on. And it's a sobering thing to look at some of these things that were just talks and things that I thought could potentially be done, and they would be a few pages of notes and with no action taken on these things.
How did you feel?
Um, so somewhat down at first and then empowered. And knowing actually that I had actually a lot of things I could have executed on that I didn't execute on, and reminded of my true potential is so untapped, as in most people, and it also started to give me a more of how do I actually execute on things better. And I mean I've spent time actually learning about project management, just taking courses on project management so I can take my ideas and formulate them into plans that can empower other people to execute some of these plans.
What what year did you sell?
January 2020.
Yes, because episode 55 was after that. I remember you called me. It was like 55 is my favorite number.
Yep. Yep.
And then the pandemic was in March.
And I truly, and I also, um, I give a lot of credit to the work that I did with you. I mean, just from being around you, from my, my exposure to the culture matters world, um, you know, uh, becoming a client of yours, and seeing some insights in our business, I believe actually put us in a better position, to be sold and to be looked at as a good asset, for my acquirer.
I really appreciate that because I need to add you to the Mount Rushmore of I was thinking about getting a tattoo on my arm. My wife will never let me do this, but with all the faces of everyone.
that's that's gonna get difficult. You're
So
gonna need
like you could
arms,
be on my
legs.
either on my weenus or right there in the middle of the what's this called? Yeah, for all the listeners, I said weenus. That's the end of your elbow, guys. Calm down. Or like a forearm, because remember, this is the arm that I lost.
Oh yeah.
But like I would like to put everyone, maybe not their faces, that's a little creepy. Like I'm collecting souls. God, this is live. So, but like some representation of everybody. I would consider you one of my guardian angels. Like any one of our client partners that gave us a shot early on is a guardian angel. It's
Wow.
like, here's the opportunity. Because right, that's the whole thing. People want to do business with successful people. People don't want to do business with losers.
Hmm.
And I was a loser early on, meaning I was losing. Kierkegaard would say, don't label me, you negate me. But like I wasn't successful until people believed in me. That goes to my wife, that goes to the original customers, that goes like right that think of that paradox. Like you want to start something great you believe in, you're not successful until someone believes in you. And
So
those are the early adopters. Like, so yeah, I appreciate you because I'm thinking about January 2020 and like the months leading up to that. So 2019, like what, May, June, July, August, September. That was a very difficult time for both of us, I think.
what's interesting is, I always viewed you as someone who was successful and like and a in terms of whether the material success happened at that time, or just internally the success happened. It didn't turn into physical, success, and into financial success, but you just knew. You just and I basically would take, I wouldn't consider consultants or just taking the kind of the unquestionable advice from you, um, in seeking my truth. And listen, it's funny. So just recently, I had on my book, my things to listen to, this year uh, Jordan Peterson's 12 Laws. I forget exactly the exact title.
12 rules for life or the
12
beyond.
Rules for Life. Yes.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so you turned me on to it, early on, actually, and then there was a point in that where it talked about being honest, and I wasn't being honest with myself. I couldn't listen to that. I couldn't listen to that, and I felt actually like it was almost it was like if I had to stop listening to that book at that moment, and come back to it until at a point in my life where I know actually I was being, honest, not only just with the world, but with myself, and not lying to myself. And it's something that, I would say, um, had a significant impact, on me. Um,
Well, you can give Jordan a shout out for a second. I've been waking up early in the morning as of before. It's funny you asked me earlier like about my how often I wake up or what, is it like a cadence to it or a consistency? And I feel like the answer is no, but I think I'm being overly critical of myself. Um, but I'll just use this last week because this week I started waking up like way before the workday starts to read Beyond Order. I have it over here. This isn't the copy I've been using. Because the one I've been using is downstairs, is all beat up. And it's got highlighter and pen. And I've been conditioning myself as a student to read each rule. So I know the first rule, like without reading it, is do not carelessly denigrate social institutions and creative achievements. I know that rule because I feel I've prepared to do my a monologue for the podcast.
hmm,
It may be out. It will not be out by the time this releases because it's going to be some type of series as I traverse through this book, one rule at a time. And I'm taking notes in rule one. So rule one, like the book downstairs is just, and I'll give a quick summation of what that rule means. But like if you could see on YouTube if you're watching this, this is the book. This is rule one. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions and creative achievements. And I'm going through and reading it early in the morning and taking notes and putting bullets, like preparing as if I'm going to do a lecture myself on it,
Mm.
because I want to understand the information better. And one of the ways to do that is to teach. And also I want the audience to get to know me better and some of the influences behind our work, Peterson being one of them and his influences and so on. And I thought it'd be a fun exercise, but it's challenging me to like discipline to get up, and that's become a morning ritual. And um I'm very excited about this project. I think it's going to help me connect with our audience in a different way, other than the culture topics that they listen to or the 30 days of thought. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm leveling up in certain ways, just going through that, whether it's that book or another, taking the time to read and to take notes and to, these things don't come naturally to me. I'm like a squirrel, running around collecting nuts in different parts of the house and putting them, it's like, yeah, how I learn is I've had to teach myself how to learn. It's not traditional, I would say. So, but yeah, do not care. Just to very quickly, do not carelessly denigrate social institutions and creative achievements. Um, it's basically some of what we talked about. Like, I have to look at myself. It's best to look at myself before I open my mouth and try to, change the world in a sense.
Hmm.
There's an example of there's a case study of a patient that Peterson once had, or had once, that the conversation started off with an even cadence, like they're there in the office for help as an individual, but very quickly that, and there's a natural, and it talks about the hierarchy of competence, and in a hierarchy being a social system, we're going to elevate someone we think is better for the overall group, like even below our awareness. We're going to elevate them above us and represent that in title if we think they actually know more than us about that thing or this thing, or like, there's value in a social hierarchy to protect the group. And so in the context of this, Peterson being the doctor and the patient being the person in the office seeking help on the individual level, the conversation very quickly developed into that patient arguing and putting the doctor on a even level as it related to like macro topics. In this case, it was like the environment, and he's making the argument in that rule one that it's easy for a macro issue to become someone's identity when they lack it.
Hmm.
Like, if I'm not doing what I need to do to be the best version of myself as an individual, with my job, with my company, with my interpersonal relationships, things as simple as you waking up consistently and doing the meditation and you look great. Like, I know you're doing very well with your business and everything. The likelihood of becoming an ideologue, somebody that's, you know, all in about whether it's some type of religious furor, or whether it's a political furor, ideology, or whether it's, you know, think of any idea way outside of or way above an individual's, like, hey, I'm Jay and I'm an advisor to founders and CEOs, and that's how I pay for my mortgage and my family and take care of my imminent child, whatever the um no, I don't do any of that. I am just in the streets waving my placard trying to change the world, like, create revolution. And
Yeah.
so the theme there in that rule is like, do not carelessly denigrate social institutions and creative achievement. Basically, don't let your lack of individualism develop into cynicism, a
Interesting.
destructive cynicism. And anyway, that's a brief summation of, and I have all my notes ordered so that I'm not like randomly pontificating on the monologue. It's going to help me speak. Yeah, as I'm trying to get better at teaching. Um, versus advising. Very different things. Advising is like a lot of listening and strategic one-on-one. Teaching is you have a lectern and you've got topics, and there's a whole another level. There's a whole different skill set to do that. So I've been being a student, with this text and like, okay, what is he trying to get at? And whether I agree with it or not, I'm going to do the best I can to deliver that information, which is a humble. I know I've said a bunch, but so there's something I'm working on through the book. The book that rule one, that's an example of what I'm getting so far out of that rule is yeah, do not carelessly denigrate or undermine social institutions or creative achievements. It took a lot for them to come into existence, more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
You and me and everyone else is a byproduct of these institutions. And anyway, and so look at yourself, or we have to look at ourselves too and say,
Yeah.
why am I so passionate about this topic at Thanksgiving dinner that I can't even have a meaningful relationship with my cousin?
Yeah.
It goes into all those kind of directions. What and a fascinating topic. But yeah, what do you have a couple things that I know I know you want to say, or I think you want to say.
So, and just about that topic, and then the medium, I want to talk about, but the topic itself, yeah, it's your subscriptions to certain dogmas can prevent you from seeing big picture, and understanding that that there's that these large institutions or these large ways of thinking, or your uncle who was brought up actually to believe this their entire life, have merit in their world, and whatever it is, by listening to them, and subscribing, and putting your subscriptions to whatever dogmas you've come into that conversation, or into that thought process, putting them aside actually can leave you open, and who knows, maybe at the end of it you'll learn something new, then, and not actually not pooping on those established institutions. That Now, the medium of actually immersing yourself, to learn a topic, I mean, it reminds me of something you shared with me many years ago about the hierarchy of learning, like the least effective way you could learn something is reading. A step up from there is listening. A step up from there is video and listening. And then the ultimate way to learn something is teaching it and immersing yourself in the content. So as you're going through this book, and making it your own, so you can then teach it, to others, you're absorbing this material, in ways that maybe Mr. Peterson himself hasn't.
I'm really shout out to the P University too. Yeah, Peterson University. I enrolled early, and I've already gotten through the Beyond Good and Evil course. Very upset about I got a couple questions wrong that really lowered my GPA.
Oh,
It's
wow.
definitely not a joke court. Like, it's not a joke university. It's not yet accredited as far as I understand, but I'm on the postmodern course now, Stephen Hicks. And yeah, I feel uh, it feels great to be in school in a way, or to some degree. And I it's going through the course and then taking quizzes and try to do my best to get the best grade I can. There's an excitement there, and there's a humility too, because yeah, getting questions wrong and things is like, I need that. It's good for me to to be to have that. It's like you talk about accountability, having a self-awareness.
Yep.
Results speak for, like, it's results will tell us where we're at. The results will tell us where we're at. Can we, you know, can we handle the truth? Can I handle the truth? It's like, oh, did I study as hard as I could have? Did I know the information as well as I thought I did? What's leading me to get confused about this question? Why did I get that wrong? It's so there. It's if coming into I feel like a late bloomer as it relates to education,
Hmm.
like learning, and it's exciting. But I get a shout out to the Peterson University, one of the 12,000 early enrollees. I believe that I was, and it was worth it. It's a great program. They have amazing. They have exciting different things. They have cosmology on there, music, Western philosophy, the
Wow.
West. They have AI and spirituality and wisdom. They have, of course, the Nietzsche course that Jordan opens it up with. They have postmodernism, which I'm doing now. It's Stephen Hicks, who's unbelievable. I really recommend his book on postmodernism. They have introduction to psychology. They have apparently Peterson's got 3 courses out going on a year just of himself, and then there's one neuroscience one that's coming out. I'm excited for. I follow this guy on Instagram. There's a Catholic priest that's fairly popular that has a 5-part series coming out. They're like 8-hour courses mostly. There's usually 8 lectures, and after each one there's quizzes. Uh, the final exam wasn't available for the Beyond Good and Evil at this point. And I'm pretty sure Peterson still has like 3 or 4 lectures to add to that. So I have some time to get my GPA up. If I don't end with an A, I'm going to be extremely upset with myself. One of the downsides of being informally trained is I don't know where the information, like I know the answer. The answer's coming from all these different places. So if it's like, uh, what did Dostoevsky think about this? It's like, well, I know the answer, but was it Dostoevsky or was it Kafka? So,
Mm.
and it was like an awareness, like, all right, I could be more diligent with teaching myself things. Yeah, great experience. There comes a point in learning, in my experience, self-learning, where I'm never going to be able to read all the books as quickly as I'd like or as deeply as I would be possible. And having that the lecturer, the professor, leveraging their brain and their time. I would liken it to how a CEO leverages great people to build their company,
Interesting.
but like on a brain level, on a mind level. Like, and this opened up for me as I hired more advisors to help me become a better advisor, consultant, and build the firm. Like having different specialists in different domains makes me smarter and more useful to our client partners. Making those investments has paid huge dividends. But like, yeah, I like it. It's, there's a lot of talk in self-help world that I hope to get farther and farther associated with as I mature, about like, against education and things. I think a lot of it's just missing the buck. You have smart, uneducated people that like kind of live in these conspiracies against education. It's like, well, what if the professor's value is actually time? Because if they've spent thousands of hours studying this one topic, I want to pick their brain. I don't need to be like, what an act of arrogance not to.
Hmm.
I think it's and what a ridiculous notion to not accept their opinions because they haven't built a business or they're not, economically. Well, of course they're not. They've spent their whole life trying to become a genius at this topic.
Yeah.
So of course they're not. So what does it say about the person that says that? Well, it says that they're not a student. Like the Nietzsche's quote, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So, like the rooms that I'm trying to get into, the customers I'd like to earn their business, they appreciate somebody that's hyper educated and is also somebody that keeps their word and is of integrity and is successful. And so, yeah, I'm excited for the future because I'm molting and there's a metamorphosis happening and pursuing some higher learning in different contexts, whether it's the family work that we do and pursuing higher learning in that, because I am now, or it's the just this general knowledge around like this Nietzsche course. What the heck does that have to? Man, it is a powerful course on individuality and human psychology and how to be a better person. If you
So
take it, it's how to be a better person, like how to you can really have some self awareness around well beyond good and evil. And it's a very that's a book that's people put it down very quickly and say this is too much. So having someone a gifted teacher like a Peterson go through it can make it possible for someone that is just going to put it down right away.
So reading it is not a prerequisite for it. You can go into it and go through the book with Peterson, kind of guiding you through it, explaining it in a, I guess a more, I guess practical a way. I mean, how does it differ from reading the book, or is the book not an efficient method of teaching?
I don't think it's an either or, it's a both and we're all coming into learning in different phases. Like as our as my responsibilities grow, it will be clear the conflict between being able to read as much and perform as much. This was a conversation I had with Kenny Phillips and Kevin Delory this week, which was, hey, how does an account executive burden, like the most successful account executive, burden or work through a likelihood that if they're the best, everyone will want to be with them and work with them. But that creates, in theory, that would create a diminishing return on their labor to those people because
Yeah,
there's only one of me.
yeah,
It's why we keep our client partner base so small, so I could be at every funeral. But if I had hundreds of clients, they wouldn't be partners. Literally, it would
yeah.
be more of a just words. So I asked that, and I was like, "Hey, that's a great." They gave a great answer. I would challenge anybody to listen to the episode. You'll see it on the Culture Matters podcast. I bring that up as an example of like, is it the book or is it the course? It's a both and as we have responsibilities as business owners and salespeople and heads of families. There's only so much time. Do we know what the answer is, and how do we come to get there? So, hey, do the best to read the book or follow what the professor says, which chapters to read. Go to the lecture and listen and take notes and do whatever you have to do to get better. Maybe in 8 hours of somebody that studied something for 40 years, we're gonna get so much value. We're gonna speed up our learning process. I think this part of the conversation around education is lost with all the stresses that come with debt and lack of trust for institutions in our culture and whatever leads people to say, I'm never going to use this, right? Oh, 60% of the people that get degrees don't use them.
Yeah, and maybe they're just skeptical because they're dying from the treatment of too many physicians, you know?
Yeah, why did I ask that? Why did I ask that? What? In closing, what can I do with my 50 bips? And also why, what does that mean? What does that,
Like to me, it's and I'm curious because I know you have a lot of consultants. How do you how do you find the right consultant, and how do you disengage when you realize that it's not going to be working out?
find the right is interviewing, right? Asking questions, reading their books. Um, I would meet, just like anything, meet with a bunch and pick the one that you feel is best. That could be backwards. You could actually feel like the one you dislike the most might be the one. The one you like the most might not be the one.
Interesting. And you
So
said feel like as is that not necessarily from a data perspective, like as in I feel emotionally best suited for this person, or is it doing an analytical thing?
I think that's, I mean, I want to say both because
Yeah, of
both are
course.
going to happen, but I think even the answer to that question, people are going to do that in their as a reflection of their own temperament, like their own personality. But I would say something that's universal, meaning some types of personalities are going to do one or the other more than the other. Universal would be, interview more than one, and like there's different types of specialists
Yeah.
based on different things that are going to be learned and then leveraged. Just like building any great team, we need a bench. It's a basketball team isn't effective if you have all the same position. So to answer your question, it would be looking at multiple and having conversations. That's going to go back to earlier in the conversation. Have your priorities straight so you can even invest time into that. And then the other question that uh, it could be very hard for a mentee to be straight with a mentor. That's where the mentor has to create an environment or is called to. There's an onus on the mentor, like, or the person with higher position to create that safety where the subordinate can feel like they can speak their mind.
Hmm.
If the subordinate feels like they can't speak their mind, they, well, if they do, they're going to be changed because they're going to grow. Like, that idea of like if you tell the truth, it's going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, it isn't. Not at first,
Yeah.
but by faith, eventually it will. That's the whole point. That's why it's so scary. So, um, I've had to have those tough conversations, and I'm better for it, and so my counterparts. And sometimes it can be there really are genuine reasons why, let's say, an engagement takes a pause or stops, but you can always start a relationship back up that's valuable. And like I hope to have that culture generally with those that we've served and those that serve us.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of one right now. It's like I can't wait to start back up in a sense. If something's a true relationship, it never ends. The relationship never has to end. That the
Yeah.
engagement can. If the engagement ends and the relationship ends, then there wasn't a relationship. If the engagement never ends, then something might be wrong with the relationship.
Yeah.
Of course, this is very black and white. It's not that binary or like there's factors. Um, there's so many factors. But that's what I would, having that that direct, honest conversation is key. And yeah, yeah, it's key and scary.
Well, that's but it's and it's an interesting thing. We were talking about a mentor mentee. An account executive, in many cases, is a mentor. And maybe it's
I
not.
believe so.
Yeah, and it's I mean, yeah, account executive by the nature of their business, they're potentially if they're a good account executive. They're seeing dozens, if not hundreds, of transactions every month. Whereas as a broker, if you're seeing a dozen transactions, you're doing pretty good for yourself. So they have so much more experience. But yeah, to your point on the best one, might not make you feel the best. It might not inspire you to use their products, to take their guidance. But just because they're the best doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the best for you.
Well,
Just because they've
that's
reached that
let me.
success. Yeah.
This is where that quote is important. When the student is ready, the master will appear.
Yeah.
Someone could have it backwards, like they're not actually ready to read the book, the chapter, have that higher level relationship.
Yeah.
for whatever reason. That is their reason. That's their fate. That's their, but that's exactly what they needed. That book, that chapter, that relationship. And often, and the world can easily feed on whatever that is, that justification, say, you know, it's them, it's not you. And I think we have to be careful of that. It's like, I personally am aware that I was not as good of an advisor to founders and CEOs when I did not have the courage to interview and hire various talent in different domains to be feedback loops for me of accountability.
I mean, you had it, you possessed it, but you didn't have the confidence, so like, I mean, still the same brain is right there, all the, and just making the same connections, making the same, the same insights, and having the same listening skills are always there with that advisor, whether that advisor has seen the success or has not seen the material success in their career. But there's something to be said about actually that early advisor who's at the early part of their career. So the people that made bets on the 2018 2019 version of Jay Duran, doing very, very well. The people who are going to make bets on the 2024 version of Jay Duran are going to do significantly better than those investing in the
Ooh, but that's
2050.
where a character comes in, because they might, their bet might actually go south real quick on the 2025 Jay, because this is the paradox of success. Success creates entitlement. So, oh,
Uh,
I don't need to get up early anymore. I don't need to read books anymore. I don't need to reinvest anymore. Let me buy a Ferrari now and impress people. Let me spend 7 hours a week, drinking and partying, because now I have people that, this is that's the manifestation that occurs.
yeah.
Character is what makes that bet continually valuable. Character, intelligence, and all those things, and gift and talent
And
don't.
yeah,
They can invert. So I just want to. I think it's
yeah,
an interesting part of the conversation, and it's funny, but it's also, I need to make sure I'm always aware and honest about it. It's like the people that bet early on. That's like the startup capital, right? It's like a startup business, the venture capitalists.
yeah, yeah,
Now the business goes into growth phase, and now you have ego take over and all the things that makes a good start a company. It's like you think this is going to the moon, and all of a sudden it just blows up, and the investors lose everything because they put too, instead of you bought it for $1 and you sell it $10, you say, oh my god, it's going to $100. Something happens and now it's not worth, it's zero.
yeah.
So you never made your 10 times return because you were trying to go to 100. it, it That's what happens, because success creates entitlement. We don't need to do what worked. We don't need to put in the work. We don't, man, this is like, I had that conversation, Christine, for the new chapter, the Grind, yesterday morning.
Yeah.
After talking about the new book, High Selling is a Drug, I was like, I know I'm working. I'm aware of this success trap. So we're working hard. We're sacrificing. Like, I believe we're doing all that. But after talking to her, I had self accountabilities. I'm thinking, oh no, no, I can do more, because I know what I'm capable of, and I haven't slowed. Like, I've listened. I need to trust my intuition,
Yeah.
and I want to include my team. But I need to make some executive decisions. One of them would be like how much I podcast. It's like MORE, capitals, MORE, whatever that looks like, whatever that number ends up, we'll figure it out, because this is my calling.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that in the ring, is like the people that, if they're listening, they're like, yeah, Jay is my guy today. Well, it may have been better to do it when Andrew did it. I don't, you don't know who I am today. Go vet me. Like, what am I doing with my time? Am I taking a lot of vacations? No, I am not. We are not. Am I, do I own more than one car? No, we don't have any kids. We own one car. Um, it's those little things like Jenna bought me a watch so I wouldn't be a puss. All right. I didn't buy the watch. Like, I would have never bought the
I
watch.
know.
Waste the money. Like, so, she thinks she's right about just about everything. So I listen to her. Like, uh, she thinks it'll help. Okay, great. I do feel like a bit more professional. But that, like, at any moment, I can screw this whole thing up based on my entitlement from being responsible at one time. And I'm obsessive with that.
And that's where character is more important than data and numbers, and that's where, knowing Jay Duran or whoever your advisor is, whoever your account executive is, having that feeling is so much more important than thinking because you've looked at the data.
One thing I want your opinion on when it comes to an account executive. Let's say that it is a mentor relationship. I don't think it's a do as I say, not as I do. I think, meaning, I just want to make sure that's clear. It's like there may be an inherent advisorial, but there's, I think, service, a value of service, like of partnership, is a key for that broker to account executive relationship, because the account executive, you said something really powerful, how they have seen more.
Mhm.
That can create almost like a distance between the two parties psychologically, where, and if there's such high volume of opportunity going to an account executive, that could create a numbing, which can create a distance, which could undermine trust. What's trust going to come from? Like telling the truth, listening,
Yeah,
like direct communication, speed,
communication.
accessibility.
That's it right there.
So like an
Communication,
account exec,
speed.
yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the core of the best account executives. It's communications, speed. I mean, it's important to have insights. It's important to be able to look at a broker's business and say, "Hey, I've seen another broker do this a little differently. You might want to try this." Or here's a strategy that's I've seen other brokers do and have been successfully been able to drive new loans in. Or here's something actually in terms of underwriting you could take a look at. But at the core of it, the communication and speed of communication, I think, are the best things that you can have. And obviously, there are technology tools to kind of make that happen, but and still in many cases, things as when you're dealing with an account executive, you're dealing with a mortgage broker. Dealing with a mortgage broker, generally speaking, mortgage brokers are handling, more difficult deals than, let's say, just those who are just going to their regular bank. More business owners are going to use mortgage brokers, or people with, interesting, tax returns, highly compensated sales professionals. So having that actually that speed, and smooth communications with an account executive, I think is key, and it seems to be what sets the best account executives, apart from those who are just good.
What could, what can I do with my 50 basis points?
What do you mean in terms of investing it, like in yourself or your account executive? Like, what do
No,
you do?
I saw, I don't know anything. I don't even know what we're talking about right now because I'm not in the banking industry. I'm a listener.
Okay.
I don't know what account executive is, but I do
Okay.
know that I saw on TV that the Federal Reserve lowered something.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, the overnight lending rate. They said actually. So what does that mean to us as the mortgage
As the
industry?
lay person that, you know, yeah, um, does it have any significance?
Yeah, it's got a lot of significance. You're going to see, you'll see prices come down on, credit cards and things like that. The mortgage industry, we already knew that there was going to be a reduction, so we've already priced it into the market. So like we're so that came out. I guess it was on the 19th. But like we already had felt the impact of that in the mortgage business because everyone knew there's going to be a cut. So mortgage rates did not, didn't fall 50 basis points. Also, when the Fed made their decision, and it's just it's the nature it's nature of the beast. But of course, we also know that the Fed made the statement that they're going to be making more cuts this year. So for the individual mortgage professional, it's a great opportunity for education. It's a great opportunity to explain, what this means, why it's not necessarily going to make your mortgage rates lower, but maybe you'll see it in credit cards. Maybe you'll see it in if you're going to finance a car, you might see, a change in your financing costs.
Andrew, in closing, I am dying from the treatment of too many physicians. You shall, I question not, find a way to the top if you diligently seek for it. For nature hath placed nothing so high that it is out of the reach of industry and valor. Alexander the Great. Thank you for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. What's your word for this episode?
What's my word? Gonna have to think of a word that's gonna, it's difficult to come up with one word for a conversation that went into several different ways. And I'm trying not to go to like one of the usual terms or one of the usual things that we've covered like accountability. But I'd say um You know, I think it's accountability. I think it's accountability, and even though it's a theme for a lot of our conversations, and but it's so much. It's whether you're being accountable to yourself, you're being accountable to you as an account executive, being accountable to your brokers to get back to them with speed and efficiency, communicating to them, or you being accountable, to your students by learning the information through by learning the information by being able to teach it. So accountable, I would say accountability.
I love that word because there's no fucking way I was getting out of bed this morning if you weren't coming on this show.
That's great.
I would have absolutely just slept.
I'm glad I was able to keep you accountable for this morning.
Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time.